said, I think you don't make a very good brand person if you can't come to the table with ideas.
Wow.
Okay? So this is a true story. Now, if I didn't practice intentional communications, I would have left that room with my team and said, you guys are useless. You should have just come up with something. You know, she wanted a list of ideas, just come up with something. Why didn't you guys say something? You guys didn't even protect me. That would have been how I would have reacted if I didn't practice intentional communications.
Joe, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Now we are here to talk about shaping narratives and how important it is. You have participated and recently seen one of our surveys around the insights to the future of women in leadership, where it suggests that the future attributes of successful leaders will be supported by communication excellence.
That's right.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely, to me, it's the baseline for everything in terms of leadership. That's where it all starts: clear, concise communications with authenticity. I think that's really important within the leadership and the rest of the staff. Sometimes when you see there's a lot of disconnect and friction within an organization, it's because I think there's no clarity, and when a leader doesn't communicate clearly, then the staff will not be able to understand or have clear definition of his or her role. In the project.
It is definitely not easy because obviously we are living in uncertainty. And any strategy that we have as leaders may not be executed because the international borders are still not open yet. Right? We do not know what the response is. A lot of people are talking about pent-up demand and so forth. We do not know what stamina it takes to manage that. But one of the things I like when we were discussing offline, you mentioned intentional communications. Can you tell us what is it about and what are the benefits?
So I'm a big advocate of intentional communication, and intentional communication is actually all about the deliberate communication that uses the right social and emotional skills to nurture an understanding of the people you're talking to, understanding what you're trying to arrive at in terms of an outcome that you want to achieve, how we can achieve a win-win outcome, So it's situations like this that require special skills, and if I'm going to kind of cut it into a nutshell, it's kind of like talking with and not talking to people, and that's the simplest way of explaining what intentional communication is all about. And it boils down to listening. And often we tend to want to prejudge an intention first before we want to listen to what the other person has to say. So I'll give you an example about, there's actually a real example within the workspace, okay? So some years ago, I was tasked to be the project lead for an organization's anniversary celebrations. And my boss said, okay, I'm going to organize a meeting and we can all brainstorm together what are the tactics we are going to do to kind of celebrate that anniversary, right? And I was like, wow, that's a great project. It should be fun, vibrant, lots of energy. And I thought my team would be really excited about it. So I told them, I said, hey everybody, go buy coffee, bring yourselves into the room with lots of energy, pumped up with passion to kind of deliver this project. The minute we arrived in that meeting room, it was just not my team, but several other teams as well that had some shape or form had something to do with this project. And the boss went to the whiteboard and said, okay, let's pen down your ideas. And I told her, I said, you know, I thought we were supposed to brainstorm. Maybe let's take a step back and try to understand, how do you want to shape this? What do you want the anniversary celebration to achieve? What do you like your customers to go away feeling, right? And she said, I hired you for the job of doing that thinking. You should be bringing the ideas to the table, not asking me for ideas.
Wow.
Okay? And there was a sudden stunned silence for about a couple of minutes. And I was shocked myself, and she said, I think you don't make a very good brand person if you can't come to the table with ideas.
Wow.
Okay? So this is a true story. Now, if I didn't practice intentional communications, I would have left that room with my team and said, you guys are useless. You should have just come up with something. You know, she wanted a list of ideas, just come up with something. Why, why didn't you guys say something? You guys didn't even protect me. That would have been how I would have reacted if I didn't practice intentional communications. But what I did was sat down with the girls and I said, let's take a step back. Why is she reacting this way? I think it's not because we didn't come to the table with ideas, because that wasn't what she had briefed us to do. Remember, her request was, let's set up a meeting time and let's brainstorm what we can do as a team to make sure we have a kick-ass anniversary celebrations. And I feel that she may have had pressure from the rest of the bosses in the region, such that she had to come back to maybe the exco table with an answer of how it was going to be shaped as a anniversary celebrations, and she didn't have a clue. So I feel part responsible, because I could have gone to her a few days before that meeting and asked her, what would you like to know? How would you like me to run this session? So with that way of framing the conversation, that puts the girls' guards down in a way that they go like, oh yes, now I understand. I'm ready to now think about what we're going to do about it. So I don't respond to her action. I don't respond to how she had been quite dictatorial, or how she had kind of flew off the handle. What I responded was to the issue. So I identified a problem statement and kind of suss out what is the outcome that she wanted to achieve, and then we got on to getting to that work to do it.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that example. I know that, it's something that I didn't even know during our chat that you've been through that. From my observation, what I absolutely love is how positive this intervention is. Because I saw how compassionate you were to your team, as well as to the person who was in a bad frame of mind. That you had that compassion for her. And I think that is such a great example of intentional communication, because it's not about taking the heat at face value and then just react to it. Usually a lot of people would choose to do that because it sounds so personal, right? Because she just barricaded you in front of the whole crowd in that room,
Yep.
and the brief was completely changed without your knowledge. Yet you were able to gracefully say, okay, let's come back to what we're trying to do here. You know, I love your keywords. Take a step back.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
And when I think about intentional communications, I think that's how we should be shaping our narratives, whether it's in a written form or in a spoken form. And again, let's take a step back to years ago, and that will maybe identify why I want to be in this job of communications. When I was 8 years old, you know, my father was incarcerated by the Internal Security Department for political views that are not aligned with the government's. So he had to make a public apology and confession at the time over TV. And I remember there was a journalist that was camped outside our home, and he came in and said, "Can we do a photo opportunity with your father in the background, mom at the side?" I was 8 years old, mind you. Okay. And at that point, when my father was doing his confession on TV, he got the mic close to me at the 8-year-old me and said, "So, Su Mei, what do you want to say about it?" And of course, I was 8 years old, and you know, I haven't seen that for months. The first thing that came out of my mouth was, "Daddy is so naughty," and it was because Daddy hadn't come back for months. And that was printed for posterity in the national press. I still live with that clipping in my bedroom, and I realized, you know, his intention was to build a story that my father's thinking, my father's actions were so wrong and had committed such a sin against the state that even the daughter has to say something like this. I had to live with that guilt.
Wow.
Okay? And that shaped my whole thinking that if I could just use communications to shape people's perception about any situation, and if I could have that power of the word, I like to have that power, you know. And I grew up wanting to be a communications specialist, doing exactly just that. So when I joined AIA, for example, AIA Singapore, as the head of brand and corporate comms, I was very proud of the work that I did there for the past 10 years. And I remember when we did a survey amongst customers and the sellers and employees, the perception of the brand wasn't fantastic at the time in 2010 when I joined. It was fuddy-duddy. It was an organization that is typical of an insurer. People think that they pay when you are dead or sick, right? So I set out to work with the team and the exco to reshape the conversations about the insurance industry so that we can be right at the forefront of healthcare, be in that journey with customers to get them to better health. And that's how I launched AIA Vitality.
Wow.
Right? So when I shape that narrative, it is a form of intentional communication. What outcome you want to achieve? Who are you working with? We had to work with multiple partners, including Discovery in South Africa. What I wanted to do with my team, because as a brand team, we had to walk the talk. So if we weren't healthy, fit, or weren't keeping well with what we were saying, there's no point selling the proposition. So I decided to encourage my team, you know, to knock off early and you know, have a life, go for a jog, one of my girls did Zumba. She loved it. She's a Zumba queen. Another one who isn't very sporty, she kind of supported her whole mental health and well-being through other pursuits like drawing, and she's such a fantastic artist. She posts all her drawings on up to today on IG stories. Yeah, so I'm very proud about shaping that team to kind of walk the talk on health and wellness. And again, that's part of intentional communications.
I think that is such a pivotal moment, right, for that brand that you worked for, because it is moving from a certain perception to a newer narrative that is more in tune with the time and what people are looking for.
Yes.
So how would you use communication to manage those who are cynical, those who are saying, because a lot of people are changing the business models now, and ideas are flying left, right, center, and sometimes people just go, that's a crap idea. But if you believe in that idea that was labeled as crap, if you are a team member, how would you encourage that person to use intentional communication to continue to talk about something that they really believe in?
So I run Bravery Communications, which is a communications consulting firm, and I wanted to work on projects that are very much aligned with my values. So the projects I work on are like sustainability projects, wellness projects, everything that I consider my passion project. And there's this particular client I work with. He's in the business of selling home care products that are made of bamboo. So it's all about sustainability, zero waste, heading towards net zero emissions. These are the themes that we're working with. And I was looking at all his social media platforms, and he was selling everything from toilet paper to bidet to tissue paper and everything on every of his social media platforms. And I said, you have to stop. Let's take a step back. Why did you start this company? And he says, I'm just horrified. I'm horrified that we are gifting this planet back to my kids in a stage where it's going to be so sick. And people need to understand that we have to start using less single-use plastics. And I said, that's a great intent, but you're not communicating your intent. You are communicating the sale of your toilet paper, your tissue paper, your facial tissues and sanitizing wipes. And then you put yourself in a position of competing with the other brands. That is not authentic. You're not competing with the other brands. You are authentically wanting to save the planet. So let's educate the people about the use of the right products, because the choice that they make and the behavioral change is what will then lead to your goals of them buying your products. So I set up a whole messaging framework and created a master narrative for him, helped manage an interview for him as he talked through his intentions, and it was very successful. He's a growing business. He's got investors investing in his business. Today I'm really proud to see he's growing by leaps and bounds, and his brand is just reaching out to so many people. The behavior is changing because of him. Yeah,
and that's such a wonderful example again, because more often than not, I remember when I was a team member before I started to lead. and I'm an ideation boy, you know, love my ideas and love generating ideas and so forth. I think as you were telling me the example, I could see what could have gone better for me if I apply intentional communications, because I think I was so obsessed with the fact that that was a my idea, and when someone said no to me, I was like, what do you mean you don't like my idea instead of the idea that could serve somebody better?
Yep.
And I think that will be the cornerstone as for learning, as you were telling me your example.
Yep.
Because more often than not, we become so possessive because of our quote unquote passion, that we over apply and it became too personal.
Yes. I think what you want to do is, when you have an idea, how about sharing that and co-create ideas with everybody else, your teammates, so that it becomes something bigger and better. You know, and when there's co-creation, then they will assume the responsibility to help hold your hands to make sure that whatever goals you want to achieve with that idea, it will be achieved.
Can I ask, so what about if you are co-creating and collaborating, it's often like, you know, everybody's putting their ideas on the table, right? And there is, more often than not, I think one of the hurdles that people are reluctant to, I would say, change or share their ideas is because someone will hijack it.
Yep.
Someone say, if Joe say, oh, this is the idea, and then L might go around and say, oh, actually I've got this other idea, like a version of what you presented, right? So now obviously, if that happens to Joe might feel vulnerable, like, hello, you hijacked my idea, thanks very much. I don't think I should share anymore. How can Joe use intentional communication to manage that? So,
to me, the outcomes are very important. If you can identify the outcomes, often everyone has similar outcomes. We just want to do something well. We want to deliver more sales. We want to get better brand awareness. You know, we want to get customers, grow customers' affinity with the brand, etc. Often the outcomes are quite similar. I think what's important is, within a group, I think we can identify the outcomes and then do a problem definition. Then we can churn out the idea, and everyone, I don't think you should be possessive over your idea. Everyone shares a piece of it, you know, and ultimately, you know, it's almost like, you know, what I like to call a little stone that's rolling down a hill, and it gets bigger and bigger as it rolls right down, with everyone else's inputs, and becomes such a dynamic impact to the market. Then you can do something about it and launch it.
You're right, compounding, right?
Yeah. So I don't think we should be possessive of an idea and worry about that. Now, saying that, it has happened to me before. So another story was that, again, it was part of the anniversary celebrations, and I said, wow, we have to do, because we are into fitness, wellness, we have to kind of encourage everyone to do a virtual race. And we could say that Singapore, let's do a virtual race that covers the entire nation, and I could liken it to, you know, that brand has and its customers have run X kilometers. That's almost the distance from Earth to the Moon.
Wow!
So it looks big, it looks fantastic, and quite sexy as a concept, you know, and a campaign. And the next thing I heard was, because I shared that whole idea at a regional team meeting, that idea got picked up by the Hong Kong team, who then did a social media campaign over it. And one of my girls said, oh my God, they copied us. Isn't this your idea? And I remember my CEO said, you're so slow. You know, you should have implemented it first. I wasn't precious about it. I'm glad that she took it. Okay, so what we did was, let's reshape our idea to make it even better. Why don't we do a virtual race around the region, to make sure that we tie the brand's markets together, for example.
I love that because it's already done.
Yeah.
So you can't undo, right?
Yeah.
So I won't say that there is no point stewing about it.
Yeah. Have a different take to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I think if you are the initial ideator, I always think that if someone can do it better, good on them. But whoever that comes up with the original idea can always do better.
Exactly.
Because it comes out of an interest than anything else.
Correct.
Yeah. And on the topic of collaboration, I know that you are in a collaborative called Neon Leaders,
Yes.
where you all believe in open talent sourcing.
Exactly.
Can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So I'm really proud about this because I love the team I work with. So Neon Leaders is actually a Hong Kong-based firm, and they are a collective of marketing leaders, in-house marketing expertise. And we believe that we can solve a company's business issue at pace with the diversity of thinking amongst the team members. And we are able to kind of collaborate as a team to lend a lot of thought leadership to the existing permanent headcounts of that organization in that marketing team, but we are their extended arms, right? So often a company might hire the team because there's a capacity gap or capability gap. And we will look at the right talents amongst us and we'll fill those talents in to solve that problem as an extension of the in-house team. And the reason why it works so well is, we're not an agency and we don't work like an agency or sort of freelancers. That's not what we are. What we tend to like to think is that because we have a lot of in-house marketing expertise, all of us come from more than 10 to 15 years of in-house expertise in various industries, from FMCG right down to financial. We have a lot of experience and skill sets that we can lend to that team. And we kind of like to tell these companies that we'll hiring the heads without the overheads.
To have the expertise to resolve certain gaps at a pace that is expected.
Exactly, and we had done, for example, a recent project which was an Asia Pacific wide project, which had to answer a gap for the marketing head, and that project would have taken about maybe 3 months to complete end to end. So when she hired my team to come in, the Neon Leaders team, we divided and conquer. At the same time, use our diverse backgrounds to kind of bring a lot of value to the table. Had a Asia Pacific workshop with them, define the problem, help them come up with a strategy and a communications approach, and then we resolved it within 3 weeks.
Would you consider this collective as a part of the ecosystem within the gig economy?
Pretty much, it's quite similar. The words gig economy is a buzzword right now, and there's a growing trend where people like to do something on the side. I kind of like to think that this is my main thing, because it's feeding into the trend of very enlightened managers and leaders in companies who realize or who are aware that they can't have team members that can do it all. You know, if, for example, when I had in my last company, I had 5 of us in the team, 6 of us in the team, and everyone is great with what they do within their scope, but not everyone have the skills and expertise for something that could be a top-down request from the group office to say that you need to deliver this project. Somebody who has the right expertise, you know.
The dot connector.
Yeah, we might not have that. I will hire somebody from Neon Leaders to come and help me with it.